Terrence Malick is back, and to me he's one of the most unique and interesting filmmakers out there. And he started back in the 70s with a movie called Badlands, which he followed up with Days of Heaven, which I personally think is a genuine masterpiece and one of the greatest films ever made. But then he decided to disappear for 20 years and returned with A Thin Red Line. After that, he also kept kinda quiet and only made one movie in the following 13 years, before once again coming back with a movie that surprisingly enough garnered a lot of mainstream attention. The Tree of Life, which was an absolutely stunning movie, but not exactly very conventional in execution. However, this apparently ushered in a completely new era in his career, because since then he's made 5 movies in the last 9 years, which is a staggering pace for him. Now, the 3 in between The Tree of Life and this one haven't been that well received. And I've seen 2 of them, and I didn't hate them, but they definitely weren't great. But I noticed a few trends, some patterns that were very consistent from film to film. First of all, he likes to use natural light, pretty much exclusively too. Which, if you're familiar with filmmaking, is pretty much unheard of. Because it means you can only shoot in specific locations at specific times. Nonetheless, that's what he likes to do, and the results are gorgeous. He makes some of the best looking movies currently. The cinematography in his films is amazing. He also uses a lot of floaty and smooth camera movements and interesting angles too, which combined with a preference for wide-angle lenses gives his movies a very unique look and feel. And that I guess brings me to what is probably the most controversial aspect of his new movies. The story and the narrative style, because these recent ones have had very loose narratives. Narratives that leave a lot up for interpretation, and there hasn't exactly been a ton of dialogue or action in those movies either. The stories have mostly been driven by the visuals, and in that sense, he has made some of the purest cinema in the last decade, because it is a visual medium after all. However, the style he's been going for isn't exactly what most people want out of a movie. Because people want stories, they want a clear narrative to follow. And from what I'd heard about this one, that's what this was going to provide. And it does. There is a very clear story here, following an Austrian man during World War II. A man who is recruited into the army for the Nazis, but he can't allow himself to support the war effort. And the narrative here is very simple and straightforward. No one's gonna be confused by this. However, that in itself is an issue because the movie is 3 hours long. And Malick continues all the other trends he's been establishing in recent years, which means that this is a very good looking movie with a lot of great visuals. Also floaty camera movements, as mentioned, wide-angle lenses, and not a whole lot of dialogue. In fact, most of this story is told purely through visuals and the narration of the characters. But the fact that this story is very simple and straightforward means that there's not a ton going on. As I said, there's not a lot of action or things happening on screen that would drive the movie and the plot forward. And if there's not a ton of that, you kinda need dialogue, something to keep it engaging. But this doesn't really have that, and well, that's a bit of an issue in a movie that's 3 hours long. I mean, look at the recent example, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That's a fairly long movie, and a pretty slow moving one at that too. But it has a lot of characters and a lot of great scenes with a lot of great dialogue. And that keeps it engaging, but this one, it doesn't really have any of that. And I know it's a bit of an unfair comparison because Malick is obviously not Tarantino. But I think my point still stands. A movie of this length needs something to keep it engaging. Because while I wouldn't call this boring, because it never lost me, I never tuned out. I really didn't find it very engaging either, and as a result I can't say I really cared for it that much. I mean, the central performances are really good, and the core story is compelling. But there is just a bit too much of nothing going on, with scene after scene that just drags on forever. But I will also say that this pretty much delivered exactly what I was expecting. However, I was hoping it would deliver more, and it really didn't, and that's pretty much that. So how about it? Would I recommend this one? Not to a mainstream audience, no. But if you like Malick and have a lot of patience when it comes to movies, sure, why not? So I don't know, maybe skip it, maybe don't. After all, I'm not your dad. But hey, what are your thoughts on this? Have you seen it? Did you like it? Let me know. And if you enjoyed the video, maybe give it a thumbs up or sub to the channel, because that would be fantastic. And if you'd like, you can also support me on Patreon or PayPal through the links in the description. And as always, I appreciate you and thanks for watching.